just came to thank you for the show. The tickets are for our divorce.
You know how everyone says surprises can save a marriage? Yeah, well, whoever thought up that brilliant piece of advice clearly never walked in on their wife having an airport reunion scene with a man who definitely wasn't her husband. But I'm getting way ahead of myself here. Let me back up to the moment my entire life decided to implode. I'm Mike, 38 years old, and this went down about a year and a half ago. I'd been married to Sarah for nearly 10 years at that point. We had everything people think makes a successful marriage. Nice house with a mortgage we complained about, joint Netflix account with separate profiles, decade of shared history. The usual setup. Here's the thing, though. I'd been a pretty lousy husband for the last year or so. Always buried in work, perpetually exhausted, constantly telling Sarah, maybe next weekend, whenever she suggested doing anything together. You know the type. I was that guy who prioritized everything except the person who mattered most. So there I was, stuffed into a middle seat on a 4-hour flight back from Chicago, wedged between a screaming infant on one side and a dude who apparently thought deodorant was optional on the other. I just survived 3 solid days of back-to-back corporate meetings, eating mediocre conference sandwiches and pretending to care about quarterly projections that meant absolutely nothing to me. The entire time, I kept thinking about Sarah and what a terrible husband I'd become. Guilt was eating me alive. So I did what any guilt-ridden spouse would do. I changed my flight, came home a full day early, and decided to surprise her with the kind of grand romantic gesture that would buy me at least 3 months of marriage credit. I even stopped at one of those ridiculously overpriced airport flower shops. You know, the ones that charge you $30 for roses that'll be dead by Tuesday. But hey, it's supposed to be the thought that counts, right? I grabbed the biggest bouquet they had. Red roses mixed with some white flowers I couldn't identify if my life depended on it. Then I hit up the duty-free shop for a box of those fancy Swiss chocolates in the gold packaging. The kind that basically screams, I forgot something important, but at least I'm throwing money at the problem. Was our anniversary coming up? Nope. Had I forgotten the last one? Absolutely. Was I trying to build up goodwill in the marriage bank account? You're damn right I was. I walked through O'Hare with this ridiculous grin plastered on my face. Probably looking like every romantic comedy husband who thinks he's about to win an award for basic human decency. I'd even practiced my line, something smooth like, surprise, beautiful, your favorite husband is home early. The flowers were getting heavy, and I was pretty sure the chocolate was melting in my jacket pocket, but I didn't care one bit. I felt good. Like maybe I was finally getting this whole marriage thing figured out. Then I rounded the corner into the arrivals area. And that's when the universe decided to completely destroy me in front of the entire cosmic audience. There she was. Sarah. My wife. The woman I'd shared a mortgage, a Netflix account, and an entire decade of my life with. She was standing by the barrier where people wait for arriving passengers. And holy hell, she looked absolutely stunning. I'm talking movie star level gorgeous. Her hair was done up in those loose waves she usually only does for major occasions. She was wearing that blue dress, you know, the expensive one that cost more than my car payment, and made her look like she'd stepped straight out of a fashion magazine. Full makeup, too, the fancy kind that takes her an hour to apply and requires more brushes than an art supply store. And she was holding flowers. Not just any flowers, a bouquet so massive it could have had its own area code. We're talking roses, lilies, orchids, the complete botanical garden experience. This wasn't something you grab at the grocery store on impulse. No, this was planned. This was premeditated. This was an, I've been thinking about this for days and dropped at least $100 situation. My brain immediately started trying to rationalize what I was seeing. Maybe she's picking up her sister, I told myself. Her sister lived in Seattle. Maybe she's meeting an old college friend. Her roommate had relocated to Portland. Maybe there's a perfectly innocent explanation for why my wife looked like she was competing in the finale of some reality dating show. Then I saw him walk through those arrival doors. Mr. Tall, dark, and I definitely have a gym membership I actually use. This guy looked like he'd been custom built in a factory that specialized in making regular husbands feel completely inadequate. Perfect hair that somehow looked professionally styled despite just getting off a plane. One of those fitted button-down shirts that advertised the fact he knew exactly where the weight section of a gym was located. A smile that probably came with its own dental insurance commercial. and expensive rolling luggage that looked like it cost more than my entire wardrobe combined. Sarah didn't just notice him. Oh no. She absolutely lit up like Times Square on New Year's Eve. Her whole face transformed into this expression of pure joy that I honestly hadn't seen in years. The kind of genuine, unfiltered happiness that people can't possibly fake, no matter how hard they try. And then, and this is the part that really sealed the whole nightmare, she ran toward him. Actually ran, in heels. My wife, who constantly complains about walking from the parking lot to any restaurant, literally sprinted across that arrivals area like she was competing in the Olympics of infidelity. She squealed. I'm talking full dolphin at SeaWorld levels of excited squealing. Then she jumped into his arms like a human kangaroo with serious commitment issues. He caught her smoothly, spun her around, and they embraced like they were reuniting after a war deployment, instead of what was probably just a business trip. The flowers, her flowers, the ones she'd brought specifically for him, got crushed between them. Neither of them seemed to care even slightly. I stood there about 20 feet away, clutching my pathetic airport roses and melting Swiss chocolates, watching my marriage die in real time with high-definition clarity. My arm went completely numb, not from the weight of the flowers, but from the crushing weight of understanding that my wife had bought a better, bigger, more expensive bouquet for someone else than I'd just bought for her. That's when the real gut punch hit me. The absolute kicker wasn't just that she was cheating. It was the sudden realization that she was putting significantly more effort into this affair than I'd put into our actual marriage in months, maybe years. I should have marched right over there, should have caused a massive scene, should have done literally anything except what I actually did, which was pull out my phone with violently shaking hands and take a picture. Just one photo. The two of them completely wrapped up in each other, her face pressed into his neck, totally oblivious to everything around them. Click. Evidence secured. Marriage officially photographed in its death throes. Then I turned around and walked back exactly the way I'd come, dumping my roses in the very first trash can I passed. The chocolate stayed melting in my pocket, probably creating a permanent stain that would serve as a nice reminder of this moment every single time I wore that jacket. My legs moved on complete autopilot as I headed toward the parking garage. And somewhere between Terminal B and my car, I started laughing. Not the good kind of laughing either. The kind that makes people crossing nearby speed up their walking and actively avoid eye contact. I sat in my car for a solid 10 minutes, just staring at that photo on my phone. Mr. Perfect Hair had a face now. He was real. This was actually happening. And in that moment, sitting in a parking garage that reeked of exhaust fumes and shattered dreams, I said out loud to absolutely no one, "Congratulations, Mike. You just walked straight into your own plot twist." I drove home on autopilot, which is probably illegal in some states, but felt pretty appropriate given that my entire life had just merged into oncoming traffic without signaling. Around mile marker 15, Adele's "Someone Like You" came on the radio. Instead of changing the station like I normally would, I cranked that thing up and belted out the chorus like I was auditioning for American Idol's Divorced Dad Edition. You know what's wild? I finally understood what she was singing about. All those years of Sarah playing Adele in the car while I rolled my eyes, asking why anyone would voluntarily listen to music designed to make you sadder. Turns out when you're watching your marriage circle the drain in real time, sad songs hit completely different. They don't make you sadder. They make you feel less alone in your misery. The drive usually took 45 minutes, but I somehow stretched it to an hour and a half by taking every possible back road. I wasn't ready to walk into that house yet. Our house. The one we'd bought 7 years ago after saving forever. That house suddenly felt like a museum of lies, and I was about to become its loneliest curator. When I finally pulled into our driveway, reality crashed down hard. I walked inside, microwaved some leftover pizza that was definitely pushing the boundaries of food safety regulations, and watched Shark Tank in my boxers while sitting on the couch Sarah had insisted we buy from that overpriced furniture store downtown. Around 10:30, my phone buzzed. I knew who it was before looking. Sarah's name lit up my screen with a text that made me actually choke on my pizza. "Flight okay? Miss you. Dasai." miss me. She missed me. The same woman who'd been performing Olympic-level gymnastics with Mr. GQ at the airport 6 hours earlier was now texting me heart emojis. The sheer audacity was almost impressive in its boldness. I stared at that message for 5 solid minutes, watching the read receipt pop up, knowing she could see I'd opened it and was deliberately not responding immediately. My first instinct was to reply with the photo. Just boom, attach the image, hit send, let that grenade explode in her hands. But something stopped me. Maybe pride, maybe strategy, or maybe I'd just watched enough true crime documentaries to know that the spouse who stays calm and collected always comes out ahead in the end. So I typed back. Yeah, flight was fine. Traffic was terrible, though. Probably gonna crash early. Love you. I even added a sleepy face emoji at the end because apparently I was committed to this performance. Hit send. Watched it deliver. Felt my soul leave my body just a little bit more. She responded immediately. Aw, poor baby, get some rest. I'll be quiet when I come to bed. Chinese food with Amy tonight, but I'll be home soon. Chai scrimmage. Food with Amy. Sure, Sarah. Amy was her college best friend who lived 2 states away and hadn't visited in over a year. But I played along, sending back a thumbs up emoji. I sat there on that couch, surrounded by pizza crusts and my own terrible decisions, and made a choice. No dramatic confrontations, no screaming matches, no begging her to explain or giving her any chance to lie directly to my face and make me feel crazy for not believing her. Instead, I was going to do something that men in my position rarely have the patience or emotional bandwidth to pull off. I was going to shut up, carefully observe, methodically gather evidence, and strike with the kind of precision that would make a surgeon jealous. I pulled out my laptop and opened a new folder, titled it Project Fresh Start, with a slightly sarcastic smile. I uploaded the airport photo, noted the exact date and time, and started a spreadsheet. Yeah, an actual spreadsheet. Because nothing says, I'm handling my emotional trauma in a healthy way, quite like Excel formulas and color-coded rows. I heard Sarah come home around midnight. Her heels clicked on the hardwood floor, her voice singing softly to herself, in that way she did when she was happy. She peeked into the living room, saw me supposedly asleep on the couch with the TV still on, and I felt her kiss my forehead before heading upstairs. That kiss felt like a betrayal stacked on top of another betrayal. But I didn't move, didn't flinch, just kept my eyes closed and my breathing steady, playing the role of the clueless, exhausted husband who had absolutely no idea his wife was living a complete double life. The next morning, Sarah was already up and humming in the kitchen, making coffee like she hadn't just destroyed our marriage the previous afternoon. The smell of French roast drifted through the house. I stretched, groaned loud enough for her to hear, and shuffled into the kitchen wearing my best "I'm just a tired husband who definitely didn't spend half the night plotting" expression. "Morning, sleepyhead," she said, pouring coffee into my favorite mug, the one that said, "World's okayest husband," which felt like a personal attack from the universe right then. "You were completely out cold on that couch." I took the coffee and nodded. "Yeah, you know how it is. Bad flight, turbulence, the usual nightmare. Unlike the actual nightmare of catching your wife in someone else's arms. Actually slept terribly. Might head into the office for a bit, catch up on some work." Shields my arm with what I'm sure she thought was genuine concern. "On a Saturday? Mike, you just got back. Take it easy." "John, got some reports to finish," I lied smoothly. "Besides, the office will be quiet. I can focus better." "Focus on exposing your affair," I meant silently. An hour later, I was sitting in my office downtown, door locked, blinds drawn, looking like I was about to hack into government databases, when really, I was just logging into our shared credit card account. The transaction history loaded, and holy hell, it was like reading a novel titled, How to Cheat on Your Husband While He Pays All the Bills. I scrolled through 3 solid months of charges, and let me tell you, the story they told was more detailed than anything Sarah had shared with me during our "How was your day?" conversations. There was a charge for $240 at Marcello's, this fancy Italian place downtown. The kind that puts 3 raviolis on a plate and calls it deconstructed, so they can charge you a week's grocery budget. We talked about going there for our anniversary. She'd said it was too expensive. Apparently, it was only too expensive when I was the one sitting across the table. Then came the hotel charges. Multiple hotel charges. Riverside Inn, $189. Grand Excelsior, $253. Metropolitan Suites, $312. I did the math in my head. We're talking over $2,000 in hotel stays within just the last 2 months alone. But the absolute kicker, the piece of evidence that made me laugh out loud in my empty office like someone who'd finally lost his grip on sanity, was a charge from Tiffany & Co. for $1,476. Tiffany's. The same Tiffany's where I'd looked at engagement rings 10 years ago and nearly passed out from sticker shock. The same Tiffany's that Sarah had dragged me past every Christmas, staring at window displays with obvious longing while I mentally calculated our mortgage payment. My birthday last year, she'd gotten me socks. Nice socks, sure, but still socks. Meanwhile, Mr. Wonderful was apparently getting the full Tiffany's treatment. I screenshotted absolutely everything, saving each image with careful file names. Then, I pulled up Sarah's iCloud account. We'd set up shared family access years back when she kept forgetting passwords and needed help recovering them. She'd never bothered changing the recovery email. It still went to my old Gmail account. 20 minutes of password reset work later, and boom, I was in. Her photos, her messages, her entire digital existence spread out before me like a buffet of betrayal. And there he was, in all his high-resolution glory. Selfie after selfie of Sarah and her lover. Through some very affectionate text messages, I discovered his name was Brad. Brad. Not even an interesting name. Brad sounded like someone who should be selling protein shakes at a strip mall, not stealing someone's wife. The photos were disgustingly cute. Sarah wearing sunglasses at some beach I'd never visited with her. Brad kissing her cheek on what looked like a hiking trail. The two of them at a concert. Coldplay, based on the stage setup. And the captions. Oh God, the captions made me want to throw my laptop out the window. My person, heart, read one under a photo of them holding hands at sunset. My person. Lady, I'm legally your person. I had the marriage certificate and joint checking account to prove it. Another showed them at some trendy brunch spot with mimosas. New beginnings, stick. New beginnings. She typed it like she was the hero of some self-discovery memoir, instead of someone committing infidelity while I paid for her iPhone storage plan. I downloaded everything. Every photo, every accessible text message, every incriminating caption. My Project Fresh Start folder was growing fat with evidence. That afternoon, I started shopping for divorce lawyers. Turns out it's weirdly similar to shopping for wedding vendors, except instead of comparing cake flavors, you're comparing hourly rates and how aggressively someone can legally destroy your spouse's life. I booked consultations with 3 different attorneys. My first appointment was Monday morning with Diana Reed. Her office was located in one of those downtown high-rises that screamed, "We charge $450 an hour, and we're worth every penny." The lobby had marble floors, abstract art that probably cost more than my car, and a receptionist who looked like she'd been hired straight from a modeling agency. Diana herself was exactly what you'd picture when someone says, high-powered attorney. Mid-40s, perfectly tailored navy suit, hair pulled back so tight it could double as a facelift, and a handshake that let you know she didn't mess around. I pulled out my phone and opened my evidence folder. Well, Miss Reed, my wife is cheating on me with a guy named Brad, and I have approximately 17 different ways to prove it. I watched her face as I swiped through everything. Most people would show some reaction. Diana Reed's expression didn't change once. When I finished, she sat back and steepled her fingers. "You've done half my job already," she said with the tiniest hint of approval. "Most clients come in with suspicions and feelings. You've come with a prosecutable case. I charge $450 per hour, require a $20,000 retainer, and I don't lose. Your wife's infidelity gives us significant leverage." My second appointment that afternoon was with Marcus Cole. His office was in a converted brownstone in a neighborhood that was up and coming. Realtor speak for still kind of sketchy, but improving. His waiting room had mismatched furniture and a receptionist named Gladys, who offered me homemade cookies from a Tupperware container. Marcus was a giant of a man, probably 6'4", with a shaved head and a handshake that nearly broke my fingers. So your wife's cheating. You've got proof. What do you want? Revenge or results? I liked him immediately. Both, preferably. Trembling. A deep rumbling sound. I like you, Mike. Let me see what you've got. After reviewing everything, he looked up with something like respect. This is solid. Real solid. With evidence like this, we can nail her in court. I charge $250 an hour, 10 grand retainer, and I fight dirty when necessary. Define fight dirty, I said, genuinely curious. Marcus grinned. Let's just say I know how to make people uncomfortable on the witness stand. And if Mr. Muscles has any skeletons, I'll find them. My third consultation Wednesday morning was with Patricia Martinez, recommended by a work buddy who'd gone through his own divorce. Her office was somewhere between Diana's corporate fortress and Marcus's working-class setup. Professional, but not pretentious. She was probably late 50s, with kind eyes and laugh lines. After reviewing my evidence, she asked, "What do you actually want from this divorce?" The question caught me off guard. What do I want? I want justice. I want her to know, Relinqu, I understand, Patricia interrupted gently. But in 6 months, when the dust settles and anger fades, what do you want your life to look like? Do you want to spend the next year in bitter court battles? Or do you want to get this over with and move on? I sat there, genuinely stumped. I want to come out of this with my dignity, my assets, and enough money to start over. I don't need to destroy her, just need to protect myself. Patricia nodded like I'd passed some test. Then that's what we'll do. I charge $300 per hour, $15,000 retainer, and I specialize in getting fair settlements without unnecessary drama. Resumption. I ultimately hired Diana because sometimes you need a shark in your corner, and she'd assured me that what I was planning was perfectly legal, if somewhat dramatic. For the next 2 weeks, I became Sarah's perfect husband. Made breakfast in bed, gave foot massages, brought random flowers from the grocery store. Sarah ate it up like I was serving validation on a silver platter. She even told her sister on the phone, loud enough for me to hear, that I'd really turned things around, and she felt closer to me than ever. The real test came when Sarah started talking about her big charity gala. For 6 months, she'd been organizing this massive fundraiser for the Children's Hospital Foundation, in partnership with Brad's company, Titanium Solutions. I'd been supportive the whole time, listening to her stress about seating arrangements and auction items, while she was probably sneaking off to hotel rooms between vendor meetings. The gala was scheduled for 3 weeks out at the Grand Excelsior, the same hotel that had shown up on our credit card for $253. "You're coming, right?" Sarah asked one evening. "I put you down for a ticket months ago." "Of course," I said, pulling her closer. "Wouldn't miss it for the world." She kissed my temple. "You're the best. And hey, Brad from Titanium Solutions will be there. He's been such a huge help with corporate sponsorships. I should introduce you." The absolute nerve could have powered a small city. She wanted to introduce me to her lover at a charity event. "Sure," I said calmly. "I'd love to meet Brad." Over the next 2 weeks, I helped her pick the wine list, listened to debates about salmon versus chicken, even went with her to pick up her dress, a stunning red number that cost more than my monthly car payment. "What do you think?" she asked, spinning in the boutique. "You look incredible," I said honestly. She did. That was the messed up part. Sarah was still objectively beautiful. Everything underneath had gone rotten. While Sarah planned her gala, I was planning something too. I'd coordinated with Diana, who'd assured me everything was perfectly legal, if dramatic. I'd also enlisted Marcus Chun, the photographer Sarah had hired for the event, who happened to be a college buddy I'd filled in on the whole situation. The night before the gala, Sarah ran through her speech for the 10th time. I sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, pretending to answer work emails while actually reviewing the final timeline with Diana. "Come to bed soon," Sarah called. "I need my good luck charm." Disregapped laptop and muttered, "Your luck's about to run out, sweetheart." Gala night arrived. I stood in our bedroom mirror adjusting my bow tie, watching Sarah put finishing touches on her makeup. We looked like the perfect couple. "You look handsome," she said, wrapping her arms around me. "You look stunning," I replied. Everything's going to be perfect. Trust me. Tonight will be unforgettable. Canst the Grand Excelsior, the ballroom was ridiculous. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures that would melt before dessert, tables set with more forks than any human could need. I grabbed a whiskey and spotted Brad near the entrance. Perfect hair, expensive tux, easy confidence. I walked over with determined strides. Brad from Titanium Solutions, right? I've heard so much about you. Recognition and panic crossed his face simultaneously. Mike, yes. Sarah's told me about you. Presumption. I bet she has, I said, squeezing his hand harder than necessary. You've been such a huge help, really going above and beyond. Late nights, weekend meetings, hotel conference rooms. Amazing dedication. Color drained from his face. It's been a team effort. I'm sure. We should grab dinner sometime. The three of us. Maybe at Marcello's? Sarah keeps talking about that place. I watched him process the restaurant name where he'd taken my wife on our credit card. Before he could respond, Sarah appeared. I suggested photos, positioning us so Brad was visible in backgrounds. Then I insisted on shots with all three of us, Sarah standing between her husband and her lover. Marcus got every shot, whispering later, "They'll be in your inbox by midnight," along with bonus shots of them when they thought nobody was watching. The rest of the evening, I became Sarah's shadow. Every time she tried sneaking off with Brad, I materialized with another reason we needed to stay together. By dessert, Sarah looked aged 5 years and Brad had vanished entirely. I raised my champagne glass and whispered to Sarah, "This has been such a wonderful night. Really memorable. To new beginnings." Crimson went pale, recognizing her Instagram caption for Brad. 3 weeks later, I picked December 19th, a Friday, just enough time for Sarah to think she'd gotten away with everything. That morning, I made eggs and told her I'd cook dinner. Just us. Something romantic. Slamming for work, looking pleased. I called in sick and spent the day cleaning obsessively. If I was burning my marriage down, the floors would be spotless. At 5:30, I changed into nice clothes and set the table. Candles, cloth napkins, good wine glasses. It looked perfect. Sarah got home at 5:45. "Mike, this is beautiful." We started eating normally. Then at exactly 6 p.m., the doorbell rang. "Are we expecting someone?" "I think that's for you," I said calmly. The process server handed over the envelope. "Sarah Lawson, you've been served." Sarah stood there confused, holding divorce papers and wine. "Mike, what is this?" "Open it." She tore it open. I watched reality crash into her. "I don't understand." "December 3rd, I interrupted. "O'Hare Airport, Gate 7, around 2 in the afternoon. Ring any bells?" Her face went white. I showed her the photo. "Please explain jumping into another man's arms." "You were there." "Surprise. Came home early, brought flowers. Instead got front row seats to your affair." "It's not what it looks like. You literally jumped into his arms with flowers bigger than mine. What exactly doesn't it look like?" "It just happened." I know everything. Every dinner at Marcello's, every hotel, every text, every selfie with "your person." Nice captions. Sarah sank into a chair. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to document everything. Long enough to hire an excellent lawyer. Long enough to watch you lie to my face every day." "I'm sorry. We can work through this." "Work through this? That wasn't a mistake, Sarah. That was a lifestyle choice." "I loved you for 10 years, I said quietly, "and you threw it away for a guy named Brad." Sarah moved out 3 days later, straight to Brad's apartment. She tried calling 400 times that first week. I answered once. "We need to talk like adults." "We are, through lawyers." "I made a mistake." "You made 63 mistakes. That's how many times you used our joint credit card. That's not a mistake. That's a hobby." Everything after went through Diana, who handled Sarah's lawyer with cold efficiency. Sarah's attorney tried fighting hard, but Diana countered with credit card statements, photographs, text messages, and dissipation of marital assets. "We're prepared to go to trial," Sarah's lawyer threatened. Diana smiled coldly. Please do. I'd love presenting this in open court. The local news would be very interested, especially given Mrs. Lawson's charity prominence. Menstrual 3 weeks later. 60-40 in my favor. I got the house, retirement accounts, savings. Sarah got her car, personal belongings, and Brad. The final decree arrived on a Tuesday in February. 10 years reduced to a document lighter than a magazine. I poured whiskey and sat on my couch. My couch now. In my house. That night I ordered Chinese food Sarah always said was too greasy. Ate from containers, watched whatever I wanted, fell asleep at 9:30. I slept better than I had in years. By spring, I'd fixed my car myself, spending weekends with YouTube tutorials. When that engine purred without sounding like death, I felt more accomplished than in years. I joined a gym. Lifting heavy things turned out to be surprisingly effective therapy. Plus, spite is excellent motivation. Every time I wanted to quit, I'd imagine Brad's perfect hair and suddenly could do 5 more reps. Then I met Emma Chen at a coffee shop when I accidentally grabbed her latte. She was a vet wearing scrubs covered in dog hair, glasses sliding down her nose. She laughed at my terrible divorce joke. Most people would have grabbed their coffee and left. Emma asked me to sit. We talked 2 hours. She told me about the Great Dane who ate an entire Thanksgiving turkey. I told her about catching Sarah at the airport. She didn't get uncomfortable. She said, "At least you didn't waste another 10 years finding out she sucks." We've been dating 2 months. Emma texts puppy photos, laughs at bad jokes, and, revolutionary part, doesn't hide her phone. Ever. Leaves it face up at dinner, answers texts in front of me, once handed it to me for a funny video. The trust was almost uncomfortable initially. Meanwhile, Sarah's all over social media with her redemption arc. Working on me, over yoga photos. New chapter, new energy, with smoothies. Growth isn't linear. Probably code for fighting with Brad. People ask if I'm bitter. Maybe slightly, like leftover coffee. But mostly just relieved. I tell them, I'm not bitter. I'm marinated in sarcasm. There's a difference. A year later, I found myself back at O'Hare, picking up Emma from a veterinary conference. Same garage where I'd had my breakdown. Same terminal where my marriage died. I stood at gate 7, staring at where Sarah had jumped into Brad's arms, waiting to feel something dramatic. Instead, nothing. Well, not nothing. I was hungry and annoyed Emma's flight was delayed. My phone buzzed. Just landed. See you soon. Warning, I smell like airplane and bought you a mug that says, World's Okayest Boyfriend. Minimized. Emma had seen my old, World's Okayest Husband mug. Understood the joke. Bought an updated version. That attention to detail made her fundamentally different. Then I saw Emma in jeans and a hoodie, pulling her suitcase. Her face lit up. She dropped her bag and ran toward me, jumping into my arms just like Sarah had with Brad in this exact terminal a year ago. Except this time, I was the one being hugged. I was the destination, not the departure. I missed you so much, Emma said, squeezing tight. Portland was great, but I just wanted to come home. Home. She meant wherever I was. Missed you too. We walked out together, hand in hand. I thought about everything that happened. The betrayal, investigation, divorce, rebuilding. All of it led here. Same airport, completely different person. Here's what I learned. Always trust your gut when it's screaming. Never chase people who can't spell loyalty. Some people aren't worth fighting for. Recognizing that isn't giving up, it's having standards. And finally, sometimes getting cheated on is life's brutal way of saving you from a lifetime of pretending you're happy. If Sarah hadn't jumped into Brad's arms, I might have spent another decade in a dying marriage. The betrayal hurt, but it set me free to find something real. So yeah, she jumped into another man's arms at gate 7. But I landed on my feet with what actually mattered. Self-respect, a rebuilt life, and someone who runs toward me instead of away. We got to my car. Emma examined it. You fixed the weird noise? Raining, among other things. Turns out I'm pretty good at fixing what's broken when I actually care enough to try. She kissed me, soft and real. I'm glad you care. Me too, I said, and for the first time in longer than I could remember, I meant it completely.